Farrakhan, my big brother. So thank you. May Allah bless you. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, let's continue to give Student Minister Ralph another warm round of applause, please. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. Greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum. So my job today is to introduce Minister Akbar Muhammad, okay? It's good to see so many faces, but I'm thinking that the time went up today, and it messed a lot of people up, you know? But anyway, I want to thank Allah for this day. We thank Allah for your attendance. We thank Allah for Minister Akbar for being here in the city of St. Louis with us today. A brother I've known all of my Islamic life and all of my Islamic days that I have been a Muslim. All praises is due to Allah. And most people don't know, when I became a Muslim, I didn't join at the time for religious purposes. I joined based on the program of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad of doing for self and self-reliance, okay? And I learned Islam after I was in, okay? And sometimes, you know, out of the ignorance of our people, they think that as Muslims, we are anti-Jesus, okay? I just want to say that for those who don't know, Jesus is mentioned more in our holy book than Muhammad is. Okay, all praises is due to Allah. All holy praise is due. But I was in graduate school at the time I accepted Islam, studying urban studies. Now it's called public affairs. But, you know, this teaching hit me so hard until I really kind of put down the studies that I was embarking upon. And this is why right now when I see young people in college and in school, I encourage them to remain, okay? And my desire was to be a college professor. And I didn't know I would be teaching on this level, okay? Yeah. But, you know, when we look at a brother like Brother Akbar, he's been on the road a long time. A long time. As a matter of fact, he was Minister Farrakhan's #1 confidant in New York under Mosque number 7, when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was actually with us, okay? All praises due to Allah. I met Minister Akbar in 1975, okay? Wafdeen Muhammad had sent him to St. Louis to take over the mosque number 28 down on Grand, now known as Masjid al-Muqnu'in at that time. And then he left that same year and went to Chicago to be Imam Wafdeen Muhammad's national assistant. Okay, this was in 75. And in 77, he moved back to St. Louis to run a business called Zoom Distributors. And you notice all of those ice cream trucks that you would see on the street. Minister Akbar owned those trucks, okay? And then in the spring of 1978, Minister Farrakhan came to St. Louis. And at his little office over on Boyle Avenue in the Central West End. And Minister Farrakhan came, and at that time, you know, we was in disarray. You know, I became a member of the Islamic Center up at St. Louis University. And Minister Farrakhan was teaching on how he was going to rebuild the nation of Islam. We didn't have nothing. No FOI, no MGT, nothing. But he had faith that he could do it. And later that year, after he had come back to St. Louis, we met at his home out on Madge Avenue in Brentwood. And we was gathering together the believers that was going to come and help. All praises is due to Allah. And, you know, I have to be honest. I was skeptical. I was very skeptical, but it gave me a lesson on faith. The Bible says if you have the faith of a grain of a mustard seed, you could say to the mountain to be what? Removed, and it will be removed. We are not talking about, it's really not talking about a mountain, that's a metaphor, but any problem that you have in your life. If you have faith of the grain, that's just a little bit of faith, all right? That just goes to show you how powerful faith is. And then Minister Akbar, here he come here. Come on up, my brother. I was telling this story. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. So, after coming back, we met at his home, and we decided that we were going to help the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan rebuild the Nation of Islam. And we went to what? Work. I'm just giving a brief history, Brother Akbar, because they need to know how our relationship has been over the years. I'm seeing pioneers now back there like Brother Ibrahim who came. We see Shahid Muslim, Ringo, Ronnie, Brother Ronnie. For those that, everybody know Ringo, brother, okay? Shahid Muslim, Sister Pamela. They all came at a certain point. Minister Ralph, where did he go? We all came at a certain time, to help. That's right. And we struggled, but Allah blessed us. Why? Because we had the faith of that grain of a mustard seed. Then what happened after that, as we began to build, we started having meetings. And everywhere we would go, they would put us out. The Mary Brown Center in East St. Louis. Because at that time, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan did not go in no major cities. Instead of going into New York, he went into New Jersey. Instead of going into St. Louis, he went into East St. Louis. Instead of going into L.A., he went into Compton. So all praises is due to Allah. So that kept down what is called friction. And then he was in and out of the South. There were study groups in the city that we didn't know existed. But at a certain point in time, we came together as one. And the rest is history. I could be here all day talking about the history of the Nation of Islam, how it got started. But now Minister Farrakhan rode into St. Louis that day by himself. And he was in and out of St. Louis by himself. It was only Brother Akbar and myself and others, Brother Eddie, may Allah be pleased with him, who would pick him up at the airport and take him to college campuses to speak, because that was a source of his income at that time. That means that he had the faith of the grain of a mustard seed. And my brother here had faith in the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. See, after you come and build everything, it's easy to come. But when you don't have nothing and the only thing you got is faith, substance of things hoped for, and the evidence of things unseen. So in other words, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan put that vision in him, and he put it in all of us, that one day we would also be back on the top. But I just want you to look at Allah and look at the power of Almighty God and what he can do. But not only having faith in what Minister Farrakhan has already done, but you need faith in your own personal life. Because we all going to go through issues. We all going to go through trials. The Holy Quran said that he was going to try us as he tried those before us, so he would know the truthful ones from the light. So my brother been standing a long time on this journey. And we admire him to the utmost. All praises is due to Allah. He's been one of the #1 helpers of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and he has been a helper of me too. Praise is due to Allah. In other words, when you have a leader that you try to emulate, a close leader. I watched his work habits. I watched how he started a project and how he wouldn't stop until that project had ended. Well, that's where I got that from. Y'all always telling me, Minister Don, I'll do that, but you ain't gonna do it. All praise is due to Allah. Look, brothers and sisters, without me going any further, I want to thank those that I invited out today. Thank you so much for coming out. Brother D. Harris, one of our great supporters. All praises due to Allah. We got a brother that's aspiring to be a politician today, Brother Khalil Abdul Muin. Thank you, brother, for coming. Praises due to Allah. We even got Brother Shomer, who came all the way from him and Brother Idris. They came all the way from Springfield, Illinois. Thank you all for coming. We had a great Reverend Diana Tapman here with us today, and our sister, Miss Wyndham, is here with us today, and Miss Metcalf is also here with us today. All praises due to Allah, and Sister Sherry. Without any further ado, brothers and sisters, let's receive our brother. Let's receive him. He just now wrote his new book is out, and all praises is due to Allah. And we ask that Allah will continue to bless him in all of his efforts. So, brothers and sisters, let's come to our feet and please welcome Minister Abdul Akbar Muhammad. Thank you so much. Let's give him a warm round of applause.
You may be seated. Thank you. Thank you very much. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of God. I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum. First and foremost, I want to thank Allah for blessing me to be here this morning, and I thank Allah for your presence. I'm honored that you would take the time to come, and I see some faces that I've been very close to over the years, but I'm honored. I'm on a tour around the country. We didn't plan it this way. The book signing was going to be at Malik Ahmed's place, and because of the lack of communications with my schedulers and Malik traveling out of the country, we had to change it. So I'm really here to talk about the book. I have 3 books. This is the first one, and this one was out of necessity because I have to raise the money to write this autobiography. And so I took the articles that I wrote in the 12 years I was living in Africa, put them together, and it's a very nice picture of Zaki in the book. His first meeting with Gaddafi when I took him to Libya, but it's a good picture, and you can see him, maybe that was 30 years ago. So if you know Zaki, just buy the book so you can have a picture of Zaki. But I want to thank you. I want to first thank the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for giving me an opportunity to help him in the early history of how we started. All of that's in my autobiography. I started in New York, where I grew up from the age of 2, and right through 1960 when I became a follower in the nation under Malcolm in New York, and through the departure of Malcolm from the nation. I want to just, Jeffrey Carson, I got to stop and recognize him because it's not that often that the superintendent of the prisons in St. Louis would come to Ahmad. So I want to thank you very much. Let me digress just for a minute. And for the over the hill gang people, if I lose my point, help me to get it back, okay? So, but last Monday, I believe it was, right, Jeffrey? They set up a talk for me in the prisons, and Anthony Shahid, you know, he's all over that, and he's the spark plug. And the 2 superintendents, the workhouse and the Justice Center, they came to listen to my lecture, which is an honor to me. But my passion for the brothers in jail, I just got through talking to a brother. I've been talking to him over and over again. He spent 33 years in jail, and he just got out, and he came into the nation, and he's just getting his feet on the ground. But I looked at those brothers, and my brother will tell you, I appealed to them, not to throw their lives away. And some of the young people that I've been blessed to take to Africa, 3,600 people in those 12 years. And I do believe, and it could happen first with St. Louis, being that I lived here and I know people, that if we can get young people, I mean, straight out of the hood, and as my brother said, this area that you're in now are people who are hardened criminals, and a lot of them are going to do serious time. But they're young, beautiful brothers. And as I looked at them, to me, you know, they look like lost souls. And I had to think of New York when Malcolm was our minister and how Malcolm would go after these brothers. And his life, when you read his autobiography, and I hope even the younger people who have not read his autobiography should be encouraged. I'm still on my point. I want to go back to it, but I wanted to say this. I wrote it in my notes to mention it, but he just came in, and I want to thank you, because there's many prisons and jails that don't give it our kind of opportunity to bring all of the inmates down and let them listen to a black Muslim talk. And when we talk, we have to talk about white folks. I mean, I just can't avoid them. I can use such language as Caucasians and the sons and daughters of the former slave master. I mean, I can go that way. But that's an opportunity. But the opportunity is for us to use what we have accepted to try to reach these young brothers and change the course of their life. I don't think there's a person in this audience who's not touched by the prison system in America that has an uncle, aunt, relative, someone who is incarcerated. And most of us know the hardship and the burden. You go day to day, and sometimes you may keep them in the corner of your mind, but you think of them constantly. And we need to do something about it. So in my book, I got 2 writings on prisoners going to Africa. Now, that may not be your cup of tea, but these brothers are hopeless, and we have to take a page from American history where there was a lot of Europeans. When the first ones came, they couldn't go and tell everybody, let's go to America and build a new land. Nobody was for that. They were comfortable in Europe. They were living well. And so what they did is they went to the prisons, and they gave the prisoners a second lease on life and told them about this land that we can send you to. And the prisoners, many of them accepted. You should read this history. It's unbelievable. One of the ones that impacted me the greatest was the one about Tasmania and Australia. The prisoners they sent there, and they were going to make Tasmania, the whole island off the coast, just a prison island. But they found the beauty of the land and the richness of the land, so they decided not to do that and moved them over to the mainland. So I'm saying that because there's 3.5 million people incarcerated in America. Though the prison statistics give us 55 to 65%, I don't believe it. When you go to these prisons, as I said, in the prison, unless you're in Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, then you're going to find that the white dominate the prison system and the Indians, but everywhere else, we dominated. I'm just going to finish this and I'm going to get back to it. But we were not born criminals. We didn't come out of our mother's womb as a criminal with a criminal mind that they could analyze us at the age of 6. We were already criminals. It's the twists and turns of the society. It's learned behavior. It's men and women who don't have a grip on life and don't have God in the center of their life. Some people say, I don't believe in God. I'm not into that religious stuff. But you need to be in something by the way your raggedy behind looks right now and what you're doing right now. So we got an obligation. There's something that I brought. I'm going to go backwards on my subject. Brother Ronnie, help me out a little but I want to bring out something. You know, when the Muslims come out to one of my lectures, only people think they say that it's like a library lecture. You always got a book telling you what you should read. You know, I know how it is. Well, bear with me at the library today for a minute, okay? I bought this book, and I'm sorry I couldn't do what I wanted to do in St. Louis, but I'm going to sell my collection, and the first sale will be in Atlanta. because I shipped everything to Atlanta and I can't ship it back to St. Louis. But this is a book called Libyan Jamahariya. There's a crisis in Libya right now because they're selling black people who are migrating through Libya trying to get to Europe, and Libya is in complete chaos. 3 different governments. They're hoping that Saif Islam, the son of the Honorable Muammar Gaddafi, who is still alive, can pull the country together, and they're going to see by next September, and he may not be able to do it. But this is, you'll have to forgive me here. Brother Ralph. Excuse me. This is the Great Libyan Jamahari is the book. I got it maybe 30 years ago in Libya. And I just want to open up to this part. And it's really, when I read it, Gaddafi quotes, he's a Muslim. And so the base of things that he talks about in life comes from his religious roots. And the guiding principle, you don't have to be, in the mosque praying every 5 minutes. But if God is in the center of your life, and before you make a decision and move, you rely on God. You look to God, you pray. And some people don't like to pray publicly and so forth, but in the quiet of your home. But he takes from the 9th surah, we call it the immunity. And it's the only chapter of the 114 chapters of the Quran that does not start Bismillah or in the name of Allah. There is a man who wrote a book. His name is Gary Wills. I believe that's his name, Gary Wills. He wrote a book, What the Quran Meant, a white boy. And when you read it, it's an unbelievable book. It just came out. It's a new book. But here's what Gaddafi opens this beautiful book up, showing Libya and what he was able to do in the time since the revolution. He opens it up with an ayat from this particular chapter. It says, say, in the Quran, you read it again, say, and this is God's revelation to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and say. And he's saying what the prophet should say. So it says, say, act, and God, his prophet, and the believers will take notice of it. That's all it says. Very simple, but it means a whole lot. It means that you got to act. You got to do something. You can't just say, well, I got Islam, or I got Christianity, or I'm a Hebrew Israelite, and then you sit around, you study your books all day, but you don't act. And while our world is going to hell, there's crisis. We got a president, a crisis, chaos president who loves chaos. The other day, Sanders tried to get him to make a comment on Minister Farrakhan. And I'm going to start off with that. I wanted to thank everybody that made this meeting possible and helped me to put it on. But I want to start there because Minister Farrakhan's been preaching at Savior's Day right on. It was total denial that he even existed. We would have 30,000 people, and he would deliver a speech and basically the same thing he's been talking about, but they gave it no attention. They didn't cover it at all. They didn't say a word about it. And I just wanted to back into this because this is what's going on right now. And Bernie Sanders is telling Trump, well, why don't you make a comment on Farrakhan? See, he's pressing them. And for some reason, Trump is not moving on that at all. He's not making any statement. Brother Ralph, hand me that phone. I want to look at something. Thank you. See, no, I have to help him out on his phone. I need to call my 8-year-old grandson. He'll help both of us out. Brother, I want one of the brothers, take this back to Brother Ronnie, and he's going to set it up because there's something on there that I have to read. So the defenders of the minister, see, you ain't got to I'm going to defend him on this chapter with the Jews. The defense is What has Minister Farrakhan meant to you as you listen to him? So you're not followers in the nation, but you listen to him. And he is a gifted man in what he delivers that can touch every aspect of your life. My defense of him, where was I at yesterday before I heard him? For a brother put one of his tapes in my hand, or whether I went to a meeting and I wrote on my notes whether he was walking the streets of Chicago or other cities in the inner city, in the hood, shaking hands with young brothers and sisters and telling them that we got to turn this thing around. The horrific killing in our community. Last week I spoke in Kansas City on this tour, woke up Sunday morning ready to go to my engagement. 7 men shot, 2 of them dead, 2 of them critical, all of them in the black community. St. Louis, as Bosley said on the radio show yesterday, is in the world, we're 13 in the world now, not in just America, we're 13 on the most violent cities in America with killing. 13 on that list. What is happening? Why is it happening? We got to question it. So meanwhile, they're attacking the minister about some statements about the Jewish people that he's pulling the cover off. He said that not all Jews, but they control the door. So they have taken and announced and wrote it in Politico and other papers in Washington that 7 Congress people, all black, should step down and resign because they met with Minister Farrakhan. Now, I want you to think about that a minute. Some unconscious Negro would read that and say, man, yeah, why was they with Farrakhan? He's a hater. See? Look at you. That's because you're an unconscious Negro. So you got to use things with them like, you remember what Nelson Mandela said? Ted Copper was hammering him. He said, we're all happy that you're out of prison, but your associates, Arafat, Muammar Gaddafi, and he kept naming different people that the West got a problem with. And Nelson Mandela, with that beautiful mind God blessed him with, he said that your enemies are not necessarily my enemy. And that's what a black man should quote. When you want me to condemn Minister Farrakhan. And then the audacity in 2005, he went to the Congressional Black Caucus and they invited him to have a few words to say. Because they know that any man that can pull together nearly 2 million people and have the track record that he has, and they're trying to deal with the problem of the inner cities or wherever their districts are, they need to hear from him like they hear from Jesse Jackson. Now that 2005 came and gone, but what happened at that meeting, the Senator Barack Obama came down to the meeting and to shake everybody's hand and tell them that for one reason or another, he didn't come and sit in the meeting. I was there, and they took pictures. And they took a lot of pictures. And Barack had this view, he was going somewhere, so they didn't want the picture that showed, and we honored that. But all of that's over. He's out of there now, so the picture now is in the public domain. And they're upset about it. They want to go get Barack and make him apologize for being associated or taking a picture. Can you imagine that? If you think like that, you got a slave mentality. To say, well, this man is a champion of our people. Our people love him. And because you got a beef with him because of what he talks about, that's your beef. So don't give me your beef with Minister Farrakhan. Excuse me. So this is not the way I was going to go in my subject, but Allah is the best in all. So yeah, the voices, make sure you read this week's final call. Brother Ralph, let me have one. Make sure that you take time in defending Farrakhan. Make sure you take time and read it. And I love what Bob Law said at the close of the article. Bob Law is a beautiful brother, and he's been with us for years. He's a good Christian, a church and God in Christ, but he loves Minister Farrakhan. See, he don't have no beef. Well, I'm in the Church of God in Christ, and I can't be bothered with them Muslims. That's what the enemy wants. So right now, Brother Zulu Shabazz, the attorney, a student of Dr. Khalid, love Dr. Khalid. His book is coming out. And in his book, he's critical, and you have the right to critique people. If you can't take criticism and don't know how to handle it, and somebody criticizes you, and the next thing you want to do, I'm going to punch you in your mouth, then it means he's exhausted your intellectual capacity to deal with his conversation, and you can't go any farther, so you want to hit him in the mouth. But I want you to take a minute and read this article in the current edition of the Final Call. It's an excellent edition, but it's about defending the minister. Let me finish on this point. If we look at what's happening in America, you know that we preach separation. And for those who don't know, study the program of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I know that even most of us put that on the shelf. Even Muslims put it on the shelf. Yeah, we preach separation, but they don't want to talk about it. I got a call from the office of the new president in Liberia. And they heard that I took a trade delegation this year to Ghana because there's a new president in Ghana. Alice, I don't know if you know the brother Dankwa, the president in Ghana. And so they're trying to get the engagements of Africans in the diaspora. And this is not new because Dr. Kwame Nkrumah wanted to do the same thing. He wanted the tremendous resources of knowledge and skills that we are blessed with by working for and under this white man and what we learned in slavery. When I go around the country, one of the things that I say to all of the audiences, it says that Michelle Obama at that Democratic National Convention struck a blow for consciousness, not just a piece of history. When she said, I wake up every morning in a house built by slaves. It was strong. See, Barack couldn't say that. His mother was a white girl from Kansas. His father was from Kenya, so he doesn't know that. But she comes straight from that root. And so she was waking up many black people who didn't think about it, didn't know about it, hadn't read about it. They look at that White House and it's been there that long. They never say, I wonder who built that White House. They don't think like that. And white people, it's off their radar completely because they're glad they call it a White House, okay? That's all they're concerned with. But she struck a blow for consciousness. So this movement to get people to look at Africa. So I get this call, and they want us to put together a delegation of professionals. Liberia needs help. And I have a very direct connection with Liberia because my oldest daughter was married to a Liberian. She got 2 children, beautiful children. And I've been back and forth to Liberia over the years, though people criticize my association with Charles Taylor. But remember, he won in a fair election because the people who didn't like him said that we voting for him because he's the only one that can hold the country together. You know, so, but there's an opportunity. And the opportunity, as Trump puts this pressure, now he don't like none of us. I mean, why don't they get him to condemn his boy that's in Paris now, Bannon, Steve Bannon. He's a right wing. He don't like Jews, nor black people, nor Hispanic, nor Muslims. I mean, he's a white wing white boy that wants America to be white again. And whatever they have to do. I mean, they don't ask, well, the president associated with him and he's against Jews, make the president condemn him. They don't say that. So the government of Liberia is rebuilding and they need expertise, but they don't want to hire Europeans and white Americans and Asians. So they called me and asked me, could I get together a delegation of black Americans who have expertise to help us to rebuild this very rich country. It's a small country. They got now about 3 million people at home, almost 3 million. There's another 6 million in the diaspora. They're even trying to get them to come back home, and it's a challenge. But the way things are going in America, separation, and those who want to step away from America and see the outside world, because sometimes you think that the world starts and stops on Sarah or Delmar or on Paige. But trust me, it does not, okay? It's a big world out there. And what you have to do is travel out into that world and see it and know that you can add to it. So those who would like, when you go to the table to pick up the book, I'll have maybe the staff, Brother Secretary Reggie, to put a sheet. If you're interested in it, I will send you the information on how you can, you have to put up a resume, what you would like to do and so forth. The greatest thing in Africa is teaching, because the African, especially the young people, they love to learn. They love it. When I was blessed to take Liz Brown, may God bless her and rest her soul in peace, and because she and Onion Horton brought a level of consciousness to this community. When I took her, we were trying to figure things out. What was she going to do? So I said, "What do you do, Liz?" "I'm in radio. I'm a communicator." And she was a lawyer. I said, "Well, why don't we set up a workshop?" That place, we had it in a hotel. It was packed. Young people, because they wanted to learn. So some of you are excellent teachers and who can go to Africa. So we're going to put a sheet up outside, and if you put down your name, your email address, the trip is in September. And there's some perks that they have offered. If you make the trip, quite naturally, the first thing you have to do is get a passport. And many of you say, "I'll do that tomorrow, I'll do it the next day." You better get a passport right now. You don't know what Trump is going to do tomorrow morning. You don't know what he may change his mind. But get a passport just in case you got to make an emergency exit up out of here, okay? So you need a passport in order to travel. So make sure you do that. Now let me go back to where I tried to start at. But I just want to say that the minister is under this attack, and we got to see how they go. Because a Jewish man told us in Washington in 1984, when the minister decided to help Jesse Jackson. It's an unbelievable history. But he told us that what they're going to do with you, Farrakhan, he said right down in the Howard Inn Hotel, he said, what they're going to do with you, Farrakhan, they're going to beat up on you and see if they can break you. And if they find out they can't break you, they're going to make out you don't exist. I don't care what you do, they will never cover you. Then if they talk about you, it'll be always negative. He told us that out of his mouth, and what he said came true. So now we have to look at what is happening now. Reckless president of chaos in the White House. The world is in tremendous trouble. He created more trouble by making Jerusalem the capital of Israel. I mean, he just did it, And now that has created a problem and made more enemies for America around the world. People begin to hate America. He's only going to North Korea because he's trying to tone down what he said, because he sees that they're serious and that there are people who will fight to the death, and they will fight. And he knows what happened in the Korean War of 1950. They fought to a stalemate. And if the communist China has to side with anybody, they're not going to side with America. They're going to side with people in that part of the world. So he had a change. Somebody prevailed on him with his reckless self that you're doing the wrong thing. You're going about this wrong. And what you see is the beauty of America. All of that will be bathed in blood and war, or fighting in Europe and in the Far East. So he's going to make, if he stays on course, a trip to North Korea to negotiate and hope that he can tone this thing down. So I'm going to talk about it because they brought out this movie called Black Panther. And I wrote a note because I didn't want to forget it this morning. There's a book, and you may remember this, Ms. Wyndham, Rediscovery of Black Nationalism. It was I got as many copies as I could, It's almost like To Kill a Black Man. Anybody remember this book? To Kill a Black Man by Louis Lomax. It's about Malcolm and Martin Luther King. If you go and look at it online, they're selling them for, one of them is $1,500. I could not believe it. This one, we saw $900 because it's a collector's item. It's out of print. And being that I'm in the book business, I know how to get books. But this movie came out. And so my grandson, 24 years old, I thought he was 21. They corrected me. I only have 14 of them. And 5 great-grandchildren and 2 now great-great-grandchildren, you know. All praise is due to Allah. So many in this audience know Naeem. You know, he went to Howard and then he went to Berkeley. So he's a pretty smart young man. You know, he got his ideas on where he's going, you know. And so he's riding with me. I said, and this Panther film is the talk. Everybody's talking about it. So I said, I gave him this book. I said, turn to the chapter called Black Panthers. I said, read it, but read it out loud. So he started reading. And he kept saying, wow, Grandpa, I didn't know that. Wow, Grandpa. And so the thought came to me that they brought this movie out, and I must take my hat off to those who did the movie, you know. I mean, they took different accents from different parts of the continent. They put them in African print. And then when I went to the movie, the young children, the little boys had African shirts on. See, all of that had been wiped out from among us. The lack of consciousness, and thinking that Africa was something you didn't want nothing to do with it, because all I know is that see starving babies with flies all over their face and so forth. There's wars, coups, and counter coups. I don't need none of that. So Africa was put on the shelf. But by them doing Black Panther, and the Panthers were not cultural nationalists. The Panthers didn't wear African outfits or anything. But look at the twist in the movie. So when you went to the movie, how many did not see it? Did not see the movie? Raise your hand. It's all right. It's all right. I don't have movie tickets up here to sell, but did you go? But I would advise you to go see it. But go see it and analyze what is the storyline. What is in the movie. The young sister that designed all of the African outfits, when I read that story in the New York Times about her, how she went to different countries in Africa. And the one that impressed me the most is when she went to the Maasai in East Africa, in Kenya and Tanzania. And she took that color, that orange color that they use, and she made that like a dominant color, something like your coat, sister, you have right there, it's just that color. And then they designed the clothes. And when I looked at the brother, the main player, he had a little Ghana on because he had the Kenta on. How many saw the Congress people when Trump was delivering his State of the Union address? The black congressional members, what did they have on? They all put on Kenta cloth. I know y'all don't look at that stuff. Y'all busy on some other stuff. But like Jesse said, when you get these men who's determining which way the world is going, so you got every right to be there listening to what they're saying so you understand what's happening. That was Jesse's quote. But they put the Kenta on, and I'm sure that them wearing that Kenta was a reflection of the Black Panther movie. No doubt in my mind. So when you look at the movie, there's a couple of things that really stood out to me because it had a brilliant, his sister was brilliant, the young one, okay? That line, she said, I have to fix another broken white man. That was a great line. Every movie that you go and you get into it, there's a line in the movie that you can always remember. You know, Clint, what's the guy that made that's right. Make my day, okay? See, you just, it sticks with you with her statement about fix another broken white man. That really, but she was brilliant. See, and the young people that looked at the movie, they were looking at her brilliance. Then you had other aspects of the movie. Being that I lived in Africa and I know a little about Africa, Brother Lawrence, could you go and get my scarf out of there? out of the office, they had the scene of the people who lived up in the mountains. It's a take on the Dogons in the country of Mali. And the Dogons are the people, when Islam started spreading in that area, they didn't want to become Muslims. Mostly everybody else was becoming Muslim, but not them. So they went up in the mountains and dug those caves. And it's interesting, if you read about them, the Germans studied them heavily because they knew how to get the movement of the stars. And they could calculate things from that study, the Dogons, a real unique group. And but in Mali, they have what is called Bogolan. Anybody know what Bogolan is? Bogolan is mudcloth. That's the name of it. And if you saw in the picture, you saw a little mudcloth here. Now, mudcloth has become very popular now. I mean, they're making mudcloth prints and tables and whatnot. And most people who buy it really don't know it comes from Africa. So you got to claim it. You know, that has an African root. Macy's just went into the business of selling Muslim clothes. I think they start next month. And Macy's realized that long dresses and head covers and tops that cover the woman's, certain parts of her body, they realized that that is becoming popular, but also it's a big market. I can't call the figures now. I think it's $9 billion market. So Macy's has stepped into it. They're going to come out to it. But a lot of it is African. And we as Black people, being proud that we came from Africa, some of us, except for those seniors, and it's only because they don't know. When I invited them to go to Africa, boy, I ain't going to Africa. I ain't lost nothing in Africa, and I ain't going to Africa. Yeah. When they brought your great-great-grandparents out of Africa, you left your brains in Africa. So we try and reconnect you in some way. So in the movie, you'll see mudcloth. And the mudcloth has become very popular, and my cultural statement during the winter, and we've had a bad winter, is these mudcloths that I always, wear in the wintertime. I'm sorry, I don't have any to sell right now, but for next winter, we should have some more if we get some mudcloth from Mali. But I wanted to mention that. So in the movies, I want to just take and analyze this movie and its impact. First, Brother Eddie, and many of you remember Brother Eddie. May Allah bless him for his hard work, his dedication. He was our first captain when I came to St. Louis. And I just talked to his wife, who had 2 children she's in New Orleans. She heard that my book was out. She immediately sent me some money to get a book and so forth. So when we were rebuilding the period that Brother Donald was talking about, the Nation of Islam here in St. Louis, and being that I was here in St. Louis, it's a long story, you read it in my autobiography, how I got to St. Louis. Yeah. And so when we started rebuilding, we didn't have any money. Right. So a man, anybody know the name Charles Murphy in this audience? Yes, sir. Wow. Charles Murphy was a special kind of brother. And special kind of brother. Him and Lou Rawls were real tight. As a matter of fact, when Lou Rawls came here one time, work with me. I'm going to get to this subject, okay? Y'all got to be patient with me. That's right. When I'm a senior citizen, and I'll be 76 years old this year. So, but Allahu Akbar. But Charles Murphy, Lou Rawls was here, and they were very tight when Lou wasn't on top. And they were in the streets in California. They had a certain kind of business they were involved in. And so I said, look, Lou Rawls is coming to St. Louis, and I love Lou Rawls. I said, do you think you can get me a ticket? You know how you got the connection to get a ticket. He said, yeah, just go there and tell Lou Rawls, tell his stage managed people that Charles Murphy sent you. And so when Lou finished the show, I said in the show, and they called me in the back, and the first thing came up is, how you doing? He said, where do you know Charles Murphy from? He wanted to know if I knew his business with Charles Murphy. So let me try to tell this story quickly. So I had and Brother Donald mentioned it, I had a concession with Forest Park for the ice cream trucks. Those ice cream trucks that you saw in Forest Park driving around, those were my trucks. And so when I got the contract, Forest Park said, well, you got to have $3,000 insurance and you got to have this and so forth. And the white boy didn't think I was going to come up with it. So Murphy said, what you need is a Cadillac. I said, no, brother, I'm not a Cadillac man. He said, oh, brother, come on off that. I'm going to get you a Cadillac, because he had the hookup. You didn't have to worry about whether your credit go through, because he put all of the pimps and hustlers in Cadillac, big cars. And I'll never forget his line in the shop. He said, hold on to this key. It's the only one I got now. You better get. But he had about 5 keys because he knew he was going to have to repossess it and he didn't want to go through no change. But so Charles Murphy got me the car. I accepted it. But we utilized it to get on the road. We rode 6 deep. Imagine that. It was Fleetwood, right? It was a black Fleetwood. And so I'm taking a long way to get to Brother Eddie. But Eddie knew, he loved to drive, and he knew the highway language of the truck drivers. He knew it. So he got one of those truck drivers, and so CDs, is that what they? Okay. And so he got it in the car, so we all in the car, and we had to race to the next city where the minister was coming in, so we'd be at the airport to receive him and so forth. And so we have to either leave a day early to get there or either the same day if it was in this region. So I'm riding in the car and I'm learning, you know, because anything in a car over 3 hours is not me. I just got to get on a plane. So the first one, it was, they were talking, and they talk about different cars on the highway. So one of them said that there's a car full of porch monkeys. Right. They call us porch monkeys. And these white boys talking back and forth. Right. And then we had a little smoke coming out of the tailpipe. So a trucker gets on there, and Eddie talks like him. You know, he got a white accent, so he can ask questions like, there's a plain brown wrapper on the left of the road, you know. They telling you that there's a unmarked police car. It's a plain brown wrapper. There's a snake in the grass, okay? It had this language down. So this one that really got to me, they saw the smoke. They say that black Cadillac full of spear chuckers, they got smoke coming out of the tail. I said, spear chuckers? I said, so I'm saying this to talk about the picture. You know, even when I carry my maps through the airport, you know, it's in a long roll and I carry it. I look at the white boys looking at me because they say there's one of them spear chuckers, okay? Just can't get away from it. So in the movie, Black Panther, it was the ultimate spear chuckers. And that was our sisters, okay? Remember in the movie they said that this spear can stop a tank? So the white boys who looked at us as spear chuckers, when they went to see that movie, they said, man, these spear chuckers are some bad so-and-so. And then it was some fearless sisters in there. These were fearless sisters. But I just want to talk about what the movie represented in terms of this fictitious country. No white people had ever conquered it. That's a page from Ethiopia, okay? And then the people, the Dogons, who came out of the mountains, they were fierce warriors, and that was from the country of Mali. Then you had the South African accent, and in it you had them speaking Hausa, which is the language of northern Nigeria, Niger, part of the Cameroon, Ghana, and northern Togo and Benin. The language that the people speak is Hausa. So they took a page from the young women who were kidnapped, and you saw them dressed like Muslims, and the language that it so happened my wife speaks Hausa, so I know some of the language. And but it made it so that you got a feel for Africa itself. Most of it was shot in Georgia, and then some of it overseas, but most of it was shot in Georgia. And the importance of the picture to me, it showed the brilliance of a black hero, which our children really need to see, okay? It showed the brilliance of his sister. She was brilliant. She was young. And it gives this kind of sense of being of black people. That's the importance of the picture. It's more than just a fiction picture written, but it speaks to us. And then those that put it together, 90% of everything that took place in the picture was from black people. So I think that you need to use the picture with our young people. See, get some of the hood rats who don't want to do nothing but shoot each other and talk about how long they've been in jail and how many women they got and babies all over town. I don't like that conversation, but you can't just stop it mid-track. You got to redirect it. You got to influence in a right direction. These, as I tell the brothers all the time, you know, when you see them all piled up on the corner, you know, and if you don't have the feel for God, you get on the other side of the street. But you should walk right towards them because they're our babies. We brought them in the world. We have to talk to them. And that's what we have to do. So one of the things you got, when you sit down, you got a flyer on your seat. It's about my autobiography. But what is really on there is the trips to Africa. And when Minister Farrakhan sent me to Africa in 1990, I didn't know what I was going to do in Africa, but I found the niche. One of the niches, the cultural, our culture, our music, our singing, our dance, our writing, our literature, our poetry is attractive to the Africans. Very attractive. Yes, sir. They follow our stars and so forth. So when I got there, in order to get into the people and talk to them about things that I knew and things I didn't know, that I had to have a door, and the door was through culture. And this picture that's impacted, they're making millions of dollars on it. But when you go see it, don't go see it as just as entertainment. Each one of those that wrote the script, who were acting parts in it, even the braids in their hair, you know, and the different hairstyles. There's an article, if you can go back and get it, in the New York Times. It's about a young white boy going to the store to get the Black Panther mask, and they were sold out. And so he ended up with the glove-like idol. But what it has impacted the white community so that their children now are looking for things that relate to the Black Panther. So this is an opportunity for us to try to give a new direction. Because you could get a bunch of brothers and sisters together and say, have you seen Black Panther? Some of them say yes or no. Then analyze it. Then talk about that last words when he was fighting with his brother. And the word was, Ronnie, you saw the picture. What was the word? It's better to die. That's what he said. See, so we have to take the picture and use it. They put the picture out, they're making money on it, and go see it again. Because there are a lot of things that passed you the first time because you didn't know what was coming. But when you see it the next time, you know something about it, you can analyze it. It was deep what they did. A special medal that they have in this country. They had never been conquered by an outside country. They had a system of who would be in charge and the leaders and the rulers of the country. And really they were talking about queen mothers. That's what it was really about in terms of the African tradition. So look at it again, and then don't look at it, go home and forget it. Try to figure out how you can use it to work with young people because they are our responsibility. I've been trying to the best of my ability to get a mentoring program. And a mentoring program, it comes from the Greek name mentos. And they had to go off to war. They had children. So they wanted some people who could mentor their children. So mentos' name became the word mentor. We got to be mentors to the children. We got to talk to them. Don't say that, man, they're hopeless. After you read the world, you go home and get you a little glass of wine and go to bed. Say, but you can make a difference in that. You can impact it. Zaki, I'm glad you're here because none of us are angels. But what you have to do is people who are consistent, people who stay the course, people who are conscious, people who understand what this struggle is. Alice took a picture of Malcolm when she was living in Ghana and Malcolm came. And though people may want to criticize Dr. Manning, because Dr. Manning never said what people who haven't read the book say that he said in the book. He never said that Malcolm was a homosexual and people attacking him. He never said that. He just gave the story of this man Lemon when Malcolm was in the street, a white man, and Malcolm was trying to use him as all the brothers who go to jail try to use somebody to help him get out of there. But Malcolm's life, or his trips, I should say, to Africa, there's no black writer that has covered them like Dr. Manning. And I read them with intensity because, I mean, all of those countries I traveled with. When I was in Tanzania, I'll never forget it. I missed the opportunity. That's why the Panthers had a book, Seize the Time. The man had a recording of Malcolm, and I didn't even know that Malcolm had went to Tanzania. I just didn't know it. And he had the recording on the shelf. He said, I got a recording of that guy, Malcolm X, right up here. My mind was so involved in what I was going to say on that radio show, I didn't say, brother, could you get that down and make me a copy of it? The point I'm making here is that she took a picture of Malcolm, a historical picture. And Alice, I appreciate you holding on to it. And we love the fact that she was there, and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was trying to get black people to get involved, and Angela was there. I don't know what role Frank Williams, and then we had Dr. Lee and his wife, who, yeah, that's why I said what he was involved in. Okay, he was the overthrow of Kwame Nkrumah was the CIA, and with a Negro, okay, who was lost and didn't know himself. James Baldwin's script on Malcolm's life is One Day When I Was Lost. And somebody like Frank Williams, when you can go work for the enemy, just like when you come to the mosque and you work for the St. Louis Police Department, number one, we're not drug runners nor gun runners or nothing else here. So when you come here listening for them, they're making a fool out of you. And when your boss sends you on an assignment like this, what you need to tell them, look, and we're in the modern time, they got a recording of everything they say, and they put it on sale. And you can tell them, plus you could tell them, I'm too slow, I'm too dumb to remember everything they talking about up there. So it's better that I buy you a tape and you listen to it. So, but you don't have to do that today. It's just not necessary. You can go on YouTube, you can hear whatever you want to hear. So let me just try to finish this up. I want to talk a minute about my book, and then time that I hope you will buy a book. I'm traveling around the country. I'll be in a few cities. Memphis, we just lined up Memphis, but California, when I do California, quite naturally, Savior's Day was the best for my sales. But second to Savior's Day was New York, because it's my home. And praise is due to Allah. And Houston, Texas, I sold out. And it gives me a good feeling. I'm going to tell you, to travel around the country and see brothers and sisters I haven't seen, and to talk about the book. When you open the book, the first part is my love of Africa. But I want you to go to, and then there's a series of articles about the African Union, which is a great feat because Kwame Nkrumah wanted to see a United States of Africa. And the man that financed and pushed it was Muammar Gaddafi. Without him, it would have not happened because of the billions of dollars that it took. Then I start talking about prisons and what we can do with the prisoners. We have to have some alternatives. And then, I mean, I got a nice piece on Diana Ross, what they did to her at the airport in London, showing that if you're black, they look at you a certain way. But I'm going to close out on this. I'm going to open up the floor for questions. and then we can retreat. My wife has some beautiful African print available. We have the Kentas that if you want to wear them, you can pick it up, and also you can get a copy of this lecture today. And I want to close out on this, just be patient with me, that what we have in America right now is nearly 50 million of us. We got schools and educational facilities for our children to go to, but we have a problem. And I think it's a problem we can't run away from. It starts with something that I learned in Africa. One of the greatest things, you know, how you go to the table and your mindset will determine what you will take away from the table. Wow. If you go there with a negative approach that you know more than them and you just listening, you know, people who cock their head to listen like this, say, you're really saying, I don't know what you're talking about, but I know better than you. But if you take that mindset, you can go to Africa and you come away the same Negro that you were when you went there. If you take that mindset. But it's what you bring to the table. And there's a lot of things that we left on the table in Africa. And one of the things was family. I mean, I learned about families, and I thank Allah for Brother Kwame Toure, Stokely Carmichael, as you know, because he was living in Guinea and I was in Ghana. And he would take a plane and come over. He'd stay with me. I've known him since '72. And he was the one that encouraged Minister Farrakhan that y'all should open an office in Africa. And what the Nation of Islam has is discipline, the beautiful brothers and sisters. The Africans need to see that. And they need to see it and feel its impact. You know, as long as you're not narrow. I tell the brothers all the time, remember, you don't belong to a cult. I don't belong to a cult. If you got a cult mentality, there's a beginning and the end to what you belong to. You got to get rid of a cult mentality. But the thing that you must do, and I learned this in Africa, and I really learned it, is family. Family is important. Yes, sir. And believe me, in Africa, it's important. A country like Ghana, 25 million people now, Alex, that's what, 25 million. When you were there, it was like 18 or 7 in the whole country. That's right. So, but the prison population is real small. So when Rollins, the president then when I was there, allowed me to go into the prisons to talk to the inmates, I saw something. Number one, you never want to go to prison because at that time, if your family didn't bring you food, you just wouldn't eat. I want you to know that they had to bring you food. That's how important family is. But the prison population is small, very small. I mean, it may be growing now with the proliferation of drugs and whatnot, but why? The reason is family. Because the young men and women don't want to hurt their family. Family means everything to them. And what we have become is disconnected from our family. You know, I mean, we have become disconnected. Then we get mad at each other. Then you got men and women, young men and women who talk to their mother and father in such a way that you talk to people in the street, you know, F that, so-and-so, cursing and filthy language in front of them. And whatever vices you got, you do it in front of your mother or father. Regardless of your condition, you got to respect family. Family is the key. That is why Minister Farrakhan teaches on family so much, because you can't build nothing without family. You know, get married, stay married 6 months and get a divorce. Don't know how to interact and exchange and negotiate and argue, as the Holy Quran says, argue with them in the best manner. You know, the divorce rate among our people is high. It's very high. Well, if you can't get along, divorce is permitted in Islam. There's rules and regulations. You just can't get along. But why so much when it hurts the children the worst? And it's painful to them because the children love both. So when you make a choice, make a choice. And if it takes you through some ups and downs, deal with it. And at the end, when they are grown and come out, it's much better. We always think the grass is greener in the other person's yard. And you're always willing to give up what you got and get over there and you find out their grass is browner than yours. And so family is important. That's the greatest lesson I learned in Africa. You say, well, they don't have no problem. They have problems. But one thing, I watch them. You know, Kwame said, when you come back in the country after you go to America, Akbar, pick up the phone and let the people who you know and you've cultivated a relationship know that I'm back in the country. How's everything going? See, because now you're like family with them. When you go to people's house, they offer you something to eat. They sit you down, give you water. They bring their children out and introduce them to family. And one of the reasons that those of us who are older in the struggle, Zaki, is that we got to be able to get to the parents. So we don't want them, they didn't got to join the nation or join your organization or join this. We just want to bring them some knowledge that's going to help them to navigate through these treacherous waters in America. That's what we want to do. And the waters are treacherous, you know. And so on Sunday morning, it's Sunday morning, the churches, some of them have good congregations, some of them have small, and they're trying to do the best that they can with what they believe and what they're doing. But we got to have a whole new world. Zaki, I love what you're doing with politics because somebody needs to be in the mix. Somebody has to be in the mix and they have to look at it. The problem we have right now is financing our politicians. That's why a couple of them jumped ship. I'm surprised at Owens. And Ronnie, we haven't looked up his name, the congressman in New York. I believe that his father was one of the brothers that soldiered with me, Donald Ninex. I'm almost sure it's him, but I don't want to say it until we research it. And the other day I just read that he condemned the minister. See, why did he condemn the minister? Because he knows that he can't stay in office unless he gets money. And where does he get money from? From the white folks who raise the money for him, for the Jews who feed the coffers. So, and he knows that we have not reached the level of sophistication when it comes to politics that we support our own. Matter of fact, when they give you a check, say, I don't want a check from you because I take this check, you think you can control me. I get the money from my own people. If you tell a white boy giving you some money for your political run, that'll blow his mind. But you got to reach the point that you're strong enough. Otherwise, they put you in a position. I heard that Brother Andrew Carson from Indianapolis, he stood tall. He rejected condemning Minister Farrakhan. See, and he's going to pay the price for it because they're going to withdraw the fundraising and all of that. So they treat them like they're slaves because their own constituency, which is us, we don't raise no money. The money that we spend in the lounge and in the bar and those brothers in the street on drugs and on women and so forth. What about making a contribution to help the politician who can have a voice for you, whether it's in the Senate or the Congress or the city council? So we have to grow up. Then they can't make a litmus test over one of your leaders. And you got to be quick to say, they said, well, what did Minister Farrakhan say? He said, the Jews hold the door to your success. They keep the door. They're the doorkeepers. And it came out, was his name Sterling? What's the guy in California on the football team? Donald Sterling. Now that should have been a wake up for Black America and all of the brothers in sports. Donald Sterling, I mean, he just looked at us as money-making machines, no respect for us as human beings, and all if you go back to, there's a Secretary of Agriculture under Richard Nixon named Butts. And what Butts said about us, I can't repeat it up here, but he's riding on a plane, and it shows you now, he said it, but that's the thinking among them.
There you go. There you go.
This is the way you handle niggas, because this is all they want. So you got to show them that I want something different. I want my babies to get the best education available. And I don't want them to get the education begging you every 5 minutes. We ain't got no money. We're strong enough with 50 million that we can do whatever we want in America. So, you know, in the street, they have a term, don't let him punk you. Don't let them punk you. And then find things you can work together on. See, we're so we don't trust each other. You know, I'm not getting my bean pie for that brother because I don't like him. I'm using bean pies, but you elevate it on up, you know? And that's what we go through. So let's do something different. Now that they are attacking us, then we got to answer back. We have to answer back. And if you know the good that the minister brought into your life, then you reflect it when you stand up and defend him. You say, I may not understand who is the satanic Jew, the satanic Jew. I may not understand all of this, but I know this, that when I was blind, a man helped me to see. And you got to tell them clearly. I'm going to close out on one of my favorite, and Brother Ronnie and I ride together and we talk history and politics and everything. But my favorite is Ben Carson. Now, I tell you, when he did those surgeries at Johns Hopkins and whatnot, I had great respect for him. He's brilliant. He really is brilliant. I wish I could have a son who could, you know, become a neurosurgeon and do what he's been able to do. But when he was at Yale, there was a group of evidently Negro professors and some white boys who said, that black study stuff, you don't need that. You know, African history. Boy, is it going to make you any money? How's that African stuff going to make you any money? See, that sounds logical to you. Because when you're in school, you're thinking about making some money when you get out of there. You ain't thinking about service to humanity, you know, and what I can do for people with my education. You're thinking how you're going to make some money. So they play on that. It sounds logical, but it's not logical. If Ben would have said to them, no, I'm going to the African studies class and the black history class because I need to understand something about myself. Many times on this rostrum, I've held up a Sankofa bird made in Ghana. And the Sankofa bird, and I think President Muhammad, who just left office in Ghana, in his book, My First Coup d'etat, he describes it beautifully. The Sankofa bird is a bird with its body going in one direction, but its head reaching over its back, picking up an egg. The next time I come, I'll try to bring some. You got one of yours? Could you have somebody get a better? So the Sankofa bird, and the Africans are heavy on symbolism. You know, one of them, I wish I could call the name in the tree or the Akan language. It has a tree, a branch, and there's a monkey on the branch, and the branch is bending down, just like he's going to fall, and almost to the ground. And they actually put this in a symbol, and what it means is that when people stumble in life and have a problem, there's the doom peddlers and the naysayers. They happy, ooh, that nigga's gonna break his neck. I don't like him anyway. See, this is one of the, this is a Sankofa bird. See his body going in this direction and his head over its back picking up an egg. So it means that in order to go forward in life, you have to know your origin or your roots or your beginning. And the weakness of us is that we don't know that. This picture, Black Panther, gives you a glimpse, and it's the thinking of the ability of the black man. But if you know your roots, your beginning, where you came from, your origin, which we don't know. Some of us are doing our DNA test. It helps you to move through life much better. So Ben Carson, he didn't do that. So they had a thing on immigration, and they was having cabinet members to weigh in on it because as far as people coming to this country, this administration doesn't want it at all, really. You know, they want to make America white again, and they'll say things, Trump will say things like, and the whole country should have been beating the hell out of him. Will say things, why can't we get some good people like from Norway? What is he saying to you? It's a slap in your face. Why can't we get some good white folks from Norway? Why we got to be messing with these S-hole people? I mean, can you imagine a president saying that? And I tell you the truth, in my heart, the weakness of the African leadership. See, they got to be strong as the Africans were back in 1967 when all of them closed the Israeli embassies in their country. All of them. Closed them. And that was making a statement. The same thing that these African leaders could do right now when he called African S-hole. Why do we need people from this S-hole? Unless you were buried in a cave, you missed that news, okay? But I recommend strongly that you come out of the cave and read a newspaper or look at the news, okay? Because you need to know what is going on. Thank you, my brother. Thank you. One last thing, this is a commercial announcement. So I'm going to open up the floor for a few minutes. We have pure shea butter on the table right next to my book. It comes from Ghana, the best shea butter. And for the brothers who are in the Over the Hill gang, how many use Magic Shave in here? It's all right. I know you got rid of the old. No, I guess I'm the only one in here that use Magic Shave. Cannot be true. It's all right. Wife want to run you out of the house? But I can give you a key. Sisters, excuse this a second. I can give you a key. Get the one in the tube and mix it with the powder one. It knocks the smell down and it takes it off real easy. And the reason that you say, well, why do men have to do that? Because I can't give you the scientific name. If somebody knows, you can help me out. But it represents ingrown hairs. Right. Because see, and you can go to Uganda, Idi Amin never shaved. And his skin was just as smooth as it could be. Because the body is so unique, we begin to produce this hair as a protection. Right. But in Africa, where a country like Uganda that's on the equator, same temperature all the time, about 83 degrees every day. So men don't produce the hair. They produce it in areas like Northern Africa where there's cold and cool air. And then the hair comes out, but we in the West, so it's curly hair. You know your curly nappy hair that you, in the early days, you were busy trying to straighten and everything. So it's curly hair comes out and it goes back in. And you call it an ingrown hair, and it produces a pimple. So those brothers who are having problems with who want to shave, some brothers say, the hell with it, I'm just going to grow a beard. I ain't going to shave at all. But if you want to shave, then you have to know the science of how to do it. Shea butter is the best thing you can do. When you read it, they'll say put some lotion of some kind. But shea butter is what have the African brothers looking with that smooth black skin, glistening in the sun. When you read that first chapter in my book, I talk about that, okay? I talk about it's the beauty of Africa. A man was rowing. I was in Benin, and he was in that little boat rowing, and the sun was striking his head and his shoulders, and it was glistening in the sun. That's shea butter, okay? So, brothers and sisters, I thank you very much for being patient with me. Thank you for coming out today, and there's so many faces I haven't seen. Brother George and Ibrahim in the back and Amir. I mean, I know I can't name everybody, but I really thank you for coming out. I thank Brother Donald and the staff for welcoming me to the mosque, and I'm a part of St. Louis. And I always go through this battle of when Allah takes me, whether I'm going to be buried in St. Louis or New York. So, when I look at that, some of the cemeteries, and I got to talk like this. If you're 21, you don't have this conversation because you think you're gonna live forever. So, but when you get older and you know that the evil accident of time is coming, you know God is merciful. He prepares you for it. When you see the flight of steps you used to run up 2 steps at a time, and you realize you can't do that no more, you know a change is coming. So there is a book. I'm gonna leave you now. The Panthers wrote this book. You remember this? Okay. How many know this book? Okay. If you don't know it, and I have maybe one on the table, but Brother Charles has it at his barbershop. And when you read it, they have a new introduction. And you have to seize the time. The Panthers didn't start off. The way that they're projected is that they were a group of gun-toting hoods and thugs in the hood. That's the way they were projected. That's why the director Hoover of the FBI could tell them, the police departments, to shoot to kill. And then to humiliate them, so they put fear into our little boys. Whenever they raided a Panther headquarters, they made the brothers strip butt naked, put their hands on their head and march them out in public and have them taking pictures. Many of the young people don't know anything about it, but you have an obligation to talk to them about it. And they only used the laws in America to carry weapons. They wasn't nobody stealing and boosting weapons and breaking into gun stores. They went into stores and bought them legitimately because the police were not protecting the community, and they felt an obligation that they had to protect it. But the seize the time is what I'm talking about. This is your hour. You got to find out, what do you want to do? If you don't know what you want to do, then come on in the FYI. We're going to give you something to do, okay? So, but this is one of the books I want to mention. And for the Muslims, you know, I like international affairs. I brought this book. It stayed on my shelf for a year because my grandson always said, "Grandpa, you read all of these books?" I said, "No, I'm a book collector and a book lover. I read at most of them because I used to own a bookstore. And in a bookstore, people come in and they expect you to know everything. So I always had to get new books, read the jacket, and read something about the book so when they come in, I could make a sale, okay? So, but anyway, I had the book, it sit on my shelf for a year. So one day I decided to open it because there was a book, America's Secret War Against Terrorism, by a man named Walcott. They printed it and they snatched it off the shelf. There's a few books like that, By Way of Deception. I think it's mentioned in the article in the Final Call. By Way of Deception by Victor Ostrowski. They printed it, and some kind of way the Jews got it off the shelf. I had to get it in South Africa and in Canada. But when you read the book, you scratch your head and say, wow. So I opened this book up, and in here is a chapter that I didn't know called The World of Islam. And one of the books that Malcolm recommended to us when we were in New York and I was a young Muslim was The Rising Tide of Color. And then it's a chapter on the black man. And for some reason, this British author named Starter starts off talking about, for some reason, Islam appeals to the militancy in black people, black men, he mentioned. So I opened this, and there was a chapter in here called The World of Islam. If you buy one of the books of mine off the table and it's got the yellow highlights, that's just the way I read, so I can go back and pick up something. But he talked about it. And this is what you're facing, the impact of Islam on black people in the Western Hemisphere. You can't get around it. It's real. And this will be my last statement. I promise you. I try to count my closings. I know I get 3, Donald. This may be 4. Let me just say that. When Malcolm left the nation, and they were wrestling, and with him building an organization, he wanted the OAAU. After the OAU, you know that history. If you don't know it, read it. And then he wanted Muslim Mosque Incorporated. But there were some brothers who were with them that they had no religious preference. They were not religious at all. And they were telling Malcolm that you don't really need that. But Malcolm said he needed it. And they had a dialogue about it, and he ended up having Muslim Mosque Incorporated because Malcolm was a spiritual man. And he knew it was the religion of Islam that saved him when he was in jail. And if he was going to build an organization, he wanted that religion at the heart of it, okay? But this is an interesting take on the world of Islam and its future impact on the world in this book called Sands of Empire. So I want to thank you very much. I hope you will stop at the table. I want to open up the floor. I'm going to take a few questions, and then I'm going to call Minister Donald up. He will close the meeting out. And we need a public collection, and I must say this is a beautiful mosque. The brothers got it, and I travel all over the country, and some of the mosques are not as beautiful as this one. And you have to maintain it and keep people coming to it, okay? So I'm opening up the floor for some questions. Yes, I got one. Yes, go ahead. I see one. You're going to be next, brother. Okay, go ahead. Go right ahead.
When watching the movie Black Panther,
Yes.
the brother, when he communed back with the ancestors, he condemned them for not sharing. And at the end, they went to United Nations to share their technology with the nations that they're not even a part of. And time in history has proven that we couldn't do that. So I want to get your take on that.
Well, I'm trying to go through that part.
Yes, sir.
What they were saying, in my opinion, is that they had something that the world needed. But because they were black, it was not accepted. This is what my take on that in particular was, because they could save, in other words, they were the giants now. They were people that were not infected by the madness of the outside world, so their people was healthy. They could cure their people. They had a mineral that the world sought after. And see, it's really a take on coltan in Africa. I wish we had the time. But the coltan in every one of your cell phones, it's a valuable mineral, but it's in the hands of some black people. So this enemy creates conflict in that area. The Democratic Republic of the Congo has been in problems since they killed Patrice Lumumba. And so that's what, to me, it represented, brother, that we can help the world, but you reject me because of who I am. Thank you very much, brother. Yes, the brother in the back, yes. Wa alaikum salam. Go ahead.
I'm working on a movie called Black Panther. I wrote the script in August of last year, and it's ironic because in the script I wrote my entourage going Ghana. And as of right now, I have a chief of Ghana, his name is Nana, I forgot his last name, and he's been basically saying the same thing as you said. He wants our people to go get land. He said, Esau, I got 800 acres of land. Couldn't you get your people? I said, well, I'm talking to these Negroes, they don't want nothing but they rent. And so where I'm at right now is I have, yesterday I went and got 12 passports in my cash funds. And we have an event at the end of the month called the Players Ball. It's to raise money for us to take, some actors out to Ghana, perform, and in Egypt. And so everybody knows in St. Louis what I've been doing, but no one's been helping. And so what I'm trying to do is see the way that I can work with what you're doing. This right here is basically, these people here know what I'm doing. This is mosque. This right here is actually what we've been posting on Facebook for a long time, and what we've been, brothers Aki know what I'm doing. Better Family Life, they've been, letting us hold our dishes there. This is right up the alley. And whatever, I like to know what can I do, or how could what I'm doing with this movie in line with Ghana and everything, how could it come together as one? How could we come together as one
Okay.
and make some money for our people?
I love it. Let me just say this quickly. The country of Liberia and Ghana, number one, Ghana has instructed the Minister of Interior to give dual citizenship. I have dual citizenship in Ghana. And when the former party was going out, the president called me and said, Akbar, we lost the election. If you're going to get your dual citizenship, come now. I had it before, but parties changed and Rollins was out of office. I went to Ghana. 2 days later, I had my Ghana passport, which allows me to travel all over West Africa. However, I'm saying Liberia has a statute in their constitution. It reads that any Negro that comes to Liberia to settle gets an acre. I think they call plots in Africa, a little smaller than an acre. But my brother, I would definitely give you some counseling on it. And then the community. I know I'm great for telling stories. I went to Alabama to talk to a group of preachers about coming to Africa, the opportunities of business and things that they'd like to do, build a school, library, and so forth. And all of the preachers listen to me. They sit there and listen to me because I'm in Alabama, deep Alabama, and I'm a Muslim, and they don't even understand what that's about. How could this Negro have some other religion than Christianity? So when the thing was over, they say, look, Mr. Akbar, we don't know you, but the person who brought you here, Reverend John Orford, we know him. And you keep talking about this Africa stuff, so we're going to put our money together and send him because we know we can trust his word, and then let him come back and make a report to us. So they put their money together, and I took him to Ghana and Liberia. And he got the African, but he's deeply involved in business in Cameroon now. He takes people back and forth. I'm only saying that to say a young brother like this, if he's got young brothers in the community, those of us who either too old to go or got so much money we don't feel we need to go, we ain't looking for, well, then go and get some of that money and help to send the brother and his crew to Africa. I just hope that Allah blesses me to be alive, because I don't think there's many people can do the slave dungeons better than me, only because I'm an African from the diaspora and I can talk about it different from the guide who's been taught what to say. But I can give the feeling and meaning to it. So, but my brother, and I'll speak to you after the meeting, but that's what you have to do. And you have to show the brothers. I mean, I looked at I was at the radio station with Bosley, and they had a copy of the World on the counter. And all of those pictures, I'm telling you, it just disturbed me. And the crimes that they committed and they involved in. And even though, Kevin, I know you know the brother that owns it, good. But now it's time for him to start easing some conscious stuff. He did it at one time, but I don't see it in there. You know, an article, a short article about the minister or something about Africa and something that's going on right now. But thank you, brother. And so we'll talk after the meeting, okay? Yeah. Right. Amir, go ahead. Amir, then I'm going to come right over to the sisters next. I know you'll say chauvinist. I've been called that. As a Muslim, believe me. Go ahead, Brother Amir. Wa alaikum salam. Yeah, NPP. Right. 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 I think the first thing, he challenged the French president, and so many words, you know, never mind your aid, and so what, treating us like boy. He was really strong on it. And his father was Dankwa. When Ghana was freed, they needed a name for the country because the British called it Gold Coast. Dankwa suggested to Kwame Nkrumah that they name it Ghana, after the great Ghana civilization, unique civilization. And that's how it got his name. And the spirit of his father is what you hear in him when he was laying the French president out. But what I love about him most of all, he gave special concession, and I believe that I'm correct on the countries or the nations, Canada, North America, and the Caribbean, that we have special privilege to get dual citizenship. Now, I get letters and calls all the time about how can I get my dual citizenship. And I answered one thing, have you been to Africa? They say, no, you're not going to get it through your internet remote control. You got to put your feet on African soil. And, but you say, well, the passport is a business tool, because it allows you the freedom of movement to different countries that you'd have to get a visa for every country. But he is very strong, and he wants to show this kind of strength because the NPP was known as a business, right-wing kind of party, but he wants to show that he is for the masses of the people. So yes, Nana, that's what we call him, Dankwa in Ghana. Thank you very much, Brother Amir. Okay, we're going to move to the sister side. Let me get the sister Sauda. Let me get the sister. Her hand was up. Yes, Sister Coffee.
My name is Coffee Wright, and I'm a filmmaker as well. And I make film travel, and I run into the same problems that this young man has. I'm also an accomplished poet. But Louis know, I'm running for United States Senate. And I'm going against the big giants because somebody has to do more than just a protest, me being out there. I have to put myself in a position to try to change some of these policies and laws because our money counts. We spend so much money and we don't have a voice. And people say they're not into politics, but we're into politics whether we like it or not because we're taxpayers.
That's
We're
right.
the biggest taxpayers. So I appreciate your endorsement. I appreciate your support. And I want to go to Ghana. I told you that in Kansas a couple weeks ago, and I mean it. I'm going. I want dual citizenship, and I'm gathering people that want the same. So
Thank you. Thank you. Now she'll be running against McCaskill. Okay. So we have to show her, you know, and when Negroes say, well, they can't win, I ain't gonna waste a vote. I mean, that's an asinine statement. I'm gonna vote because this is my brother or sister. I may not agree with them on every point, but I'm gonna show that the white folks can't take my vote for granted, that I'm supposed to just give it to them because I'm either in the Democratic Party and so forth, and she can't win, so I'm gonna give them my vote. Hell no. Show them that you got some muscle and that you know what your self-awareness is, that you know something about yourself, and so you should support it. Let me just say this. They're having a testimonial for Percy Green. What is it on? See, this is the thing. Now, he's one of the giants of this city. He's older now, and before you were thought of by your mother and your father, they didn't even think about you. Percy Green was in the street struggling. So they're doing it at Harris Stowe, and Zaki, they need to get the message. And the thing about St. Louis is communication and getting things out. You know, you got the American, but you got to read it. I mean, you get the paper and throw it on the thing. You don't go through it. If I hadn't have got the American and the Riverfront Times, I wouldn't have known that Jimmy Cliff was here. He's a friend of mine. I'm sorry I couldn't see him. He was at the Powell Sympathy Hall. Anybody see it? Wycliffe. Not Jimmy Cliff, Wycliffe. But anybody go to the show the other night? Okay, okay. But it's just communication. And believe me, it takes stepping away from something really to see something. Because when you're in the middle of it, you really can't see. But when you step back away and take a look, and that's one of the things. When they announced that, I said, nobody said to me that they were going to honor Percy Green. I mean, not a word of it. And it's on a Tuesday, so y'all could get the information. Now I'm going to take Sister Sauda. Okay, the sister in the back. Okay, sisters, I'm going to take you first, okay? We're going to limit it to, I'll say 1, 2, 3, 3 brothers. That's it, 3 brothers, and I'm going to take 4 sisters. I'm starting with Sauda.
I just had a question about this photograph.
Yes. Yes.
Who is this person?
You have to ask my daughter, Samima. She, okay? Call Samima, I'll give her a number. You know her. Okay, thank you very much. Sister Alice, you're sitting right next to her.
I don't have a question, but I want to thank you for all the years
All
of
praise
work.
be to Allah. All praises be to Allah. Thank you, my sister. All praises be to Allah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Thank you, my sister. Thank you.
Owe you a debt of gratitude around the country when you told me you were becoming the archivist for the nation of Islam. That's a big responsibility, and who else can do it? The book fairs that you used to sponsor in St. Louis. After you left, nobody has done that. And you brought wonderful people to town, and those were major events. I want to make a brief comment about Franklin Williams, whose name you mentioned
Right.
in connection with Ghana. I had a friend named Emily Maliwa from Malawi. She was an African patriot of the first order until the end of Williams's existence in New York when he came back after having helped overthrow Kwame Nkrumah. When he gave a lecture like this, she would be in the audience. And she would get up. Mr. Williams, why did you come to Africa and help overthrow Kwame And I was so proud to know that she had done that. Bob Law, who you mentioned, used to have a saying on his radio show whenever we were upset about something a black person had done here. He would say, remember, white people own more Negroes than you do. And that will explain it, but thank you for the personal
Thank you.
support that I've had from you and for what you've done for the community.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Isaiah, go ahead.
I too, Ms. Akbar, want to personally thank you because of you, I have been able to go to Libya before, Gaddafi and the murder of Gaddafi, and just in November, Iraq, and to one of the most holy places in Iraq, Karbala, because of you, and I thank you personally for that. And I also want to say our organization is having a program this afternoon at 3. And we're going to be honoring the women from what Trump calls those S-hole countries. So we're going to be, honoring us women. And I've invited anyone in the audience to come at 3 at the Legacy Bookstore.
Thank you.
Our union.
Thank you. Can I come and sell a few of my books there?
Yes, sure.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Sister Dolores. Wa alaikum salam. Thank you very much. Thank you. First, I'm gonna, maybe when I come back, I'll talk about this. But I never spend time, and I pray Allah never puts my mind in that direction to look that there's something divine, that I got some divine niche. If you're looking for divinity, you read the scriptures looking for your man, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, or Minister Farrakhan. And what messes up many men and women who join religious groups is they're always seeking some divine. God gave me a dream last night. You come and tell me I had a dream and God showed me I should do this because I'm really his disciple. See, that just mess you up. That's why you got 1,000 storefront churches right out there next door to each other. Matter of fact, they bump in space because the preacher had a dream. And that God told him to go out and get his own church. And that because he had a divine calling. Spend your time doing good. And one of the hallmarks of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and it comes from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is goodness. Being good to people. And even if you say they're not so good, but you do good. Because you say, I'm doing good to you because my reward is not with you. My reward is with my Lord. And that's why I do good. But thank you very much. Okay, I got these 4 questions from the brothers, but I got to take Monroe before you, Zaki, okay?
Another Baker school in our community, and another school on Athlon. For Harriet Tubman, we need high school age homeless shelters for our children. And Harriet Tubman is going to specialize in that. So see that, but we want a special relationship with the Nation of Islam. I'm committed to it. I committed myself in that mall with some of you brothers that I see here for the million man march. And some of you, the ones that I was with there with, me, stand up and bear testimony to the fact that we were there. And I'm completing this promise that I made to the minister in that mall. So you see how it does. You know what it is. And one of the members of the board, the directors of Harry Tubman, is also present in this organization too. And you'll be able to see that and help us with that. And I thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna give you two things. You know, I used to hold things, you know, but as I get older, it's no need of holding things unless you're gonna use them for something. And there's two people, I would say three people, that in order to make that school a star, one, you write a letter to Bill Gates, two, the guy that owns Walmart, and three, an African named Alihu Dangote, the richest man in Africa. He's only worth about $17 billion, but he has other things. He's in Nigeria. I'm gonna give you, and write him. There's only two answers in the world. Yes or no, and you can't get either one unless you ask. So when you're doing a project like this, the key, I could see that school refurbished in the heart of our community, and an institution that educates our young people both day and night. But you need money, Bill. And these people have the money. And you are smart enough to put a proposal together, so everything that you need, you in a position of power to hire them, especially in a city like St. Louis. So I'm gonna give you their names and so forth as soon as we go outside. Thank you very much. Zaki.
First of all, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
I just want to stand and express total graciousness and humbleness to the work that you have been doing, Brother Akbar.
Oh, praise be to Allah.
Reemphasize what I think Sister Alice said, what Queen Zia said, and I know I've been blessed with my relationship with Brother Akbar in terms of a number of trips, and the most recent trip, as Sister Zia mentioned, it was through you, Brother Akbar, was able to go to Karbala. And I would challenge everybody to look up Karbala, Iraq, as one of the center places where Muslims come from. Over 20 million come per year just as they go to Mecca. Also, I want to salute Brother Akbar Muhammad as well as Brother Ralph. And I say that in the spirit of Akbar, you say over the hill, guys. We've been hanging out for years in terms of on course, on posts, speaking, truth to power. My last comment, though, I'm a former Black Panther Party member, and you were saying
Right.
since the time, I salute that. But my question, going back to the movie Panther, I enjoyed it. I went to it twice. My only hang up with it was the projection of the CIA being friends with you.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
CIA
Thank you.
is no friend of the Black
That's right.
community.
That's
the
right.
only problem I had.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. 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 Walaikum salam.
Well, I feel like Moses is a little bit right now. Because,
Moses?
I feel it's spiritual.
Okay. Good.
Because I have a bus ministry, and the things I've learned about a lot, I kind of like, I speak on the bus, people like to speak. And one day I just said, you know what, I like having a church. Anybody got to change the dollar for these things? So, little girl, she was getting it probably get money. Little girl gave me $5. I tell her you gave back to her. I said, I'm just going to pay because I really want to tell you all your things. The other question I just want to ask you, what's them gang members like Crips and the Blood? Was they conscious minded at one time? And if they was, I wanted to join because I want to infiltrate them and turn over to the good side. Just think about that.
Okay. Okay. Let me answer it in a short. I'm gonna go the short way. There's a lawyer and an activist named Charles Knox. Anybody in here know that name, Charles Knox? He was from Chicago. He wanted me to take some young brothers overseas, and they were regular street hood rat thugs. And I rejected it. I said, brother, you know, I get these mandates from governments overseas to bring African Americans, and I don't want these brothers to go over there and embarrass me and hurt my relationship with these governments. And he said that his words with me, well, Akbar, I want you to take them, because just as somebody gave Malcolm a chance, you got to give them a chance, because you may be able to save one of them or redeem them. That was his answer to me. And I listened to him. I took 2 of them overseas. They were main leaders of those gangs. And the gangs were becoming conscious, but they were rerouted, brother, into the debauchery that you see through music. Because remember, the music, the hip hop was positive music in the beginning, but it degenerated into pure debauchery and gangsters and guns and all of that. And it took them off the path of consciousness. And it was orchestrated by the same people that Minister Farrakhan is talking about right now. So that's the short answer. Thank you very much, my brother, for your question. Okay, I got 2 more. Yes, brother. Wa alaikum salam.
In reading your book, and I'm enjoying it, as I said to you earlier, I would have a question about the Union of African States.
Yes.
USA.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I read
African Union, AU.
Thank you, sir. And after Gaddafi's death, then Camp Youri, am I saying that right? Burkina Faso.
Burkina Faso.
I thought he was appointed to be the successor. And my question is what is the status of the Union?
Okay, well, quickly, the African Union still exists. They launched it in 2000. Boy, that's a good subject, and maybe sometime we can come and talk about it, how it started. Gaddafi made it clear that this is not an idea from me. It was the idea from Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Keita of Mali, Gamal Nasser, and a few other African leaders, that they wanted a United States of Africa. And he said it's the only way that the continent will survive. Otherwise, they will cut us up into little pieces, and they will take all of our resources, and we will end up just serving them to make them rich, unless we form a United States of Africa. And so after he was brutally killed, and it's a part of the reason that he was killed because of his sovereign wealth, the $476 billion that they still haven't put their hand on. That's the only reason that his son Saif is alive. But the African Union doesn't have a godfather. It doesn't have a leader who has the respect that can move it forward. So now they're in problems with each other. They're trying to keep it going, but they're running into difficulty until someone can step into that vacuum. Thank you very much, brother. Good as in the CIA? Well, I thought about it. I just didn't mention it in my speech, but sometimes people like to show that I'm not as racist as you. See, I put a white person in there. See, and it's difficult to get black people to look out for their own self-interest, and they do it, but they feel that maybe this will help them to maneuver through Hollywood or whatever they have to do. But the CIA reputation is never as a good guy. You know, I've mentioned that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad talked to us about being kind to people, and Prophet Muhammad said the same, peace be upon him. There's no being kind to nobody in the CIA. Right now, I feel that they may even be plotting how to get rid of Trump. He's such a damn headache for them. So okay, the last question was, okay, Brother Kevin?
I'm just going to say that the white guy was the compromise to get the movie made. The director didn't want him in there. In fact, there was supposed to be 2, but he at the end was supposed to fight alongside of the Panthers, and they fought to get him out. They took that scene out. So the director didn't want him in there either.
Thank you, very good. Now, there was a person in the back that had the hand on the brother side. Was it you, brother? No? Well, I don't think it was you. Yes, sir. This is the last question, and if you want to talk to me about something, I'll be outside. I can't. It's 12:30 now. Is this? Do we have the clocks right? Yes, sir. And is Brother Ronnie in here? Ronnie, I got some more history on how daylight saving time started. We'll talk about it when we're driving together, okay? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. How much is a acre of land in Ghana?
Depends on where you get the land. Amir, where's Amir? Okay, he's outside. It depends on where you get the land. Right in Accra right now, a plot of land. A plot is 100 by 70 usually, 100 by 80 in some plots. A plot in the heart of Accra right now is $25,000. It's just the land. So, but now I was telling about, Amir, do you own some land in Ghana? Okay, okay. I was going to just say, now I have some land in Ghana. It's a place called Wager Lake, going towards Cape Coast. I have 2 plots there, and those plots cost me $350. Right now, my wife said that they're up to about $1,200 right now, but I have some land there. So it's where you are, location, 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 determine what the price is. Okay, thank you very much. Mail out. Yes, yes, yes. I have to let her. Wa alaikum salam.
Every time I think about you, we go way back. Me, you, and Mr. Donald.
That's right.
Y'all, St. Louis has not been the same since he was moved out of it. And you cried when you had to go, and I cried when you had to go. And the community was, the mosque was just packed wall to wall every Sunday. He had contest that we could win to go to Hawaii if we, whoever brought the most people to the mosque. He appointed me the president of the Committee for Cultural Development. We went swimming, we had movies, we had everything. It has not been the same. And I love you so much. Favorite teacher.
Love you too. Okay. Allahu Akbar. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, y'all, I'm very humbled by the words here today. I didn't expect it, but I thank Allah for you. And as long as Allah gives me breath and I can move, I will keep working. Keep working. And thank you again. I'm going to bring Brother Donald back to the roster. Assalamu alaikum. Here.